Conover. Construction of drawers has been written about to the point of nausea, but oddly enough, the other half of the drawer equation, and that is the supporting and housing of the drawer itself, has been almost totally overlooked by writers and educators. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about the support of drawers on what are called slides. Most of us think of slides as metal devices in kitchen drawers, but actually in fine furniture yet today, and for centuries in the past, slides are made from wood and will operate just as well as a metal slide if constructed properly. A drawer is a lot like a piston fitting into a cylinder, and it needs to fit correctly, and a properly made drawer actually has a little bit of taper to it, while the slides are perfectly parallel. I wrote about this little chisel chest in a past issue of Woodworker's Journal magazine. It represents the simplest way of supporting drawers. It is a box within a box. The carcass or framework of this chest is a dovetailed box. And into that box we've inserted partitions which perfectly fit each drawer. We have about a 1/16 play up and down and about the same side to side. As the drawer gets bigger, this play increases slightly. And each drawer is tapered slightly so that you can put it in and push it closed easily. A more usual form of a chest of drawers is a big version of our little chisel chest, and this would be a bureau or something like that, in which we had a dovetailed box with a face frame glued to it. And in that case, we usually make our slides out of wood again, but we have three parts to the slides. We have the bearers, and the bearers are just like the name implies. They bear the weight of the drawer. And these are generally attached to the inside of the carcass with wood screws, which go through like this. In the front, they are screwed right into the carcass to keep this registered against the face frame in the front. But in the back, we make an elongated hole so that the carcass, in which the grain is running this way, can expand and contract to the back, and this won't cause this to break. In addition to the bearers, we have the guides, which are glued to the bearers. These cause the drawer to stay on course as it goes into the cabinet and register square at the face. And one additional piece is that often to the bottom of each bearer, we glue a little strip of wood called a kicker. And this keeps the drawer from tipping down too far when it is at full extension. All this together, plus a little taper in the drawer, will make everything run beautifully. We glue all these parts in place generally as we fit the drawers into each pigeonhole in a cabinet. And a glue that has a fairly long open time is very advantageous. Traditionally, cabinet makers have used hide glue for that reason. You have to keep it at about 150 degrees all the time in your shop, and is a bit messy. A great modern replacement for that is Titebond 3, which has a long open time and also has the same kind of brown color that hide glue has, so it tends to hide little gaps and so on. Let's look at the next type of construction, which is frame construction. The third way to support drawers is on what are called web frames. And they are used in this type of construction, which is frame construction. The carcass is built much like a house with 4 or more corner posts in which rails run between them to fix the size of the chest. I have not put in the side and back panels so that you can sort of see inside this carcass by magic. The web frames are housed in notches cut in the frame. On our web frame, we have created a little tenon on each end. And when we assemble this, that tenon fits into that little mortise at the bottom of the notch and locks this frame against the front rails. That way, any expansion and contraction of the front and back rails of the web frame can play out at the back of the notch, and this will always remain against the front rails. Needless to say, this takes careful layout and accurate cutting of all the joinery. There's an old saying that it's hard to make money on casework. We also have some stiles running between the rails, which gives us multiple drawers across, and this is another reason to go to web frames in this situation. So our drawer is nicely supported by these 2 bearers. We also have a bearer at each edge for the adjoining drawers. Now, onto our web frame, we're going to glue 2 guides at each edge of the drawer, right behind these stiles, that will guide that drawer accurately into the piece. And again, we want to glue with a fairly long open time so that we can reach in with quick grip or spring clamps and clamp this while the glue sets up. But we have some time to then put the drawer in and see that everything is really working well before we decide to let the glue set hard. Additionally, to the bottom of the web frame above, we will put kickers, often in the center of the drawer in a case like this. The last thing we have to do is put some taper in the drawer, and everybody asks me how you do that. Let's take a look. A drawer is traditionally made with a half-blind dovetail at the front of the drawer and a through dovetail at the back. It is customary to cut the half-blind dovetail to exactly the depth of the mating piece. So whatever the width of this drawer to start with is going to be what the width of it is when we're all through. However, at the back of the drawer, we tend to overcut these dovetails very slightly, about a 32nd of an inch in this case. And when the glue dries, we will then plane off these protruding ends at the back, and that'll give us about a 1/16 of taper to this drawer. Again, a glue with a long open time is advantageous because it allows us to maximize the geometry of this drawer before it sets up. And our last step here is to take a square and mean out the error. The drawer's a little that way. I'm just going to move it right over. And again, I have the open time to do this. And a hand plane cleans this up very nicely. Okay, there's our finished drawer. You can see how the glue filled very nicely where that didn't quite come up tight. I'll never tell if you don't. But let's see if it fits. This is a reproduction of a shaker chest, which has 1 drawer underneath the main chest. And if we did our work correctly, this should just go right in there. 1 finger, doesn't even have to push from the center. You can do that from either side. There's no paraffin on this, but if you want to put a little paraffin on a finished drawer, put it on the tops and bottoms and sides and on the slides inside, it'll make it work much smoother, especially once you put some stuff in it. This is an interesting chest in that the bearers are strips of wood glued to the sides of the carcass, and since the grain is running in the same direction in this chest, we can glue the bearers in place. The guides, of course, are the sides of the chest itself. It's important to build a good, solid drawer, but it's just as important to have good slides. Thanks for visiting.